Hey everybody, good afternoon. This is Dan Loftus. I'm Vice President of Sales at HM Cragg, and we're excited to share with you this afternoon some information about Eaton Services. HM Cragg works very close with Eaton, and services are a big part of what we do with Eaton, and we're hoping that you can take advantage of some of these programs that they have. So with us today is Caitlyn Dant. She's a product manager for Eaton Services. And Caitlyn, I'm going to turn it over to you to take it away.
All right, thanks, Dan. Hi, everyone. I am Caitlyn Dant. I am the product line manager for single phase services over at Eaton. And even though I am specifically for single phase services, I'm going to give you guys an overview of the whole of Eaton Services and how HM Cragg and Eaton can best help you out with attaching services and kind of what the value is from a service perspective. So before we get started, when we talk about services, I know mainly most people think about the UPSs and what it entails from a UPS perspective, like service contracts and preventative maintenance. But there's more to services than just a UPS and their service contracts and preventative maintenance. We also do field modifications and modernization services, which would be like our service life extension programs, our Predict Pulse software application, as well as startups and recommissioning or decommissioning of units, and also the parts organization. So anytime you need spare parts, batteries, anything in the field that our technicians might need, that is part of the service organization as a whole. We have very long tenure of our service technicians that are trained in-house, and when they go on site, they're going to be there quickly, response times overall, and then our overall satisfaction too. We want to ensure that the end customer is getting the best from our technicians, and we want to make sure that we employ those top line ones. So our service organization is widespread. We have lots of technicians for our three-phase products as well as our single-phase products, our cooling products, you name it. We are all across the board here. The pins on the dots, the black and red ones, those are our field-trained technicians and where they're housed. They don't have all on here, but it shows a good majority of where we're at. It also shows where our headquarters are at. Heavy on the East Coast, but our scheduling and dispatch team is 7/24. So we are there and available 7 days a week, 24 hours. Even on the holidays, we do have people manning the phones and taking calls from customers. So no one's ever left in the dark. If you need an Eaton support technician, the 800 number is there, and someone will always answer the call and try to help you out as quickly as possible. So that is the organization as a whole. Now we're going to get into like the fun part. What I would like to say as a fun part is the service offerings. So we have this great organization. We have all these technicians across the US, but what does that mean from partner perspective? What is it that you guys can actually put in front of your customer and show the benefit of it? So I like to say that we have a life cycle, a UPS life cycle or product life cycle, I should say. It's not just specific to UPSs, but we like to keep the circle whole. We don't want it to break. We don't want it to have little dotted lines across it. We want to go from 1 all the way to 6, which is planning of the UPS, and then a retiring of the UPS. And then we would start back at 1 again. So in order to get from 1 to 6 without breaking it, you do have the install option, so your startup or your decommissioning and recommissioning of units. You have the maintenance portion of it, which is not just the UPS PM for preventative maintenance, but it's also our service agreements. So you want to be able to maintain your equipment and make sure that it is running efficiently and effectively. And then our software piece, which is our monitor. So Predict Pulse, if you guys are not aware, it is our cloud-based monitoring software, where Eaton is monitoring the equipment 24/7, and we try to see if there's any anomalies that might be coming up, and we notify you guys before a disaster happens so you guys can take actions and plan accordingly. Our modernization, that's going to be proactive replacements or cap and fans and batteries, our service life extension program, which essentially you keep the frame of the UPS, but then you take out the guts of it and it's a brand new unit. But you don't have to worry about footstep or landscape, whatever box is there, the box of it, the shell of it stays in place, and Eaton just comes in and we replace all the firmware and hardware inside of it. Our SMB retrofits for our 9315s are also part of the modernization. And then I already talked about the caps and fans. And then it goes to number 6. So there is a life of the UPS, the end of the life, when we retire units. That is when we come in and you guys would either do a SLEP and get the renewal on the UPS. So start from plan 1 and kind of jump to the maintenance part of it. Or you would just buy a new Eaton brand UPS, start at 1 and go around to 6. So why would you want to keep it in this full circle is that you get to have peace of mind. You keep the customer happy. You know that they will be covered and someone from Eaton will always be there to handle their calls should any issues arise or pop up. You also get a continuous revenue for the life of the unit. So it's not just when you plan the UPS and you win the order on number 1, but our recurring service agreements or contracts are on an annual basis, unless you do a 3 or 5 year option. But you get those revenues on those contracts and the PMs and the startups, rather than just selling a UPS and then moving on to the next customer. And then you also get to maintain the relationship with the UP or the customer, that in hopes that they come back each and every time to you when they need a new UPS or a new service agreement to kind of keep that revenue going. So what units or types of units do we have service on? As you can see, we have our single phase UPSs, 3-phase PDUs, and then we just launched our cooling services. So anything with an X on it is available for purchase. So anything that has an X is an Eaton SKU. An Eaton technician will be dispatched and sent out for any of those product lines. If there's a dash, that means it is not available for any kind of service SKU, but majority of these products do have the service availabilities to it. I did touch base on our monitor piece, and this is our Predict Pulse. So just a quick blurb for those that aren't familiar with it. It is our cloud-based remote monitoring software, and it is a software that is downloaded. It is very secure from the customer, and the data that we collect on the software, we do have a group that sits in front of these screens 24/7, and they do monitor. So if any alarm would go off, we try to catch it beforehand. They check the batteries to make sure the batteries, are running smoothly, and make sure that they actually will turn on in case there is no power to the system. It looks at the environment of the UPS. So if it's getting too hot in there, if there's water, if they, hear or sense, the environmental probe senses any, condensation, we will give a call to the end customer and alert them that they have this issue and to correct it. If it's tied with any kind of service contract, so any kind of flex plan that we have, we will automatically dispatch a technician to the site while giving the phone call saying we are sending a technician. We see something that could be, an alarm going off or, possibly an alarm going off, to prevent a disaster going forward. So that is, if you have a customer that may not have an IT person that's close by that can run in real quick to check on the unit, this is a great one that Eaton has eyes on it 24/7, and we try to be predictive analytics rather than proactive or reactive. I'm sorry. Single phase UPS portfolio. We do have now the Eaton Triplite series brand that is out there available. and then our 5 and 9 series that the majority of you guys are familiar with. And then we just added our cooling options. So our cooling portfolio is now in the mix, and any of these product lines that are on the screen right now are available for your standard Eaton single phase services. So startup, assembly, we have our preventative maintenance and flex plans and our depot plans on the smaller options. All right, before I mentioned our service life extension program. It is our, like I said, we replace the guts or the inside of the unit, but we don't mess with the footwork or the framework of it. If it is already installed in there, you don't have to worry about unhooking all of the unit and the equipment and getting out of the space in hopes that the new unit fits in the framework that was already there. So we don't change the existing footprint. It doesn't require any electrical installation, and it resets the clock for the UPS another 10 to 15 years. So if it is in that aging UPS timeframe where you are thinking about replacing the unit, this is a good option to look into where Eaton comes out. And again, it's a brand new unit on the inside. The outside just looks the same, and then it resets the UPS time. So you have a brand new unit on the inside, and you don't have to worry about changing your footprint or the electrical installation too, that I know can get costly. So a little timeline for our service life extension, the roadmap that it is. As you can see, we have done a lot of our UPSs that are out there in the field from our 9390s and then our 93 PMs that are coming here soon. So if you do have any customers that happen to have these units and they are thinking about replacing, but they just don't have the footprint size or space for it, this is a good option that HM Cragg can quote you guys on and push out there to your customer. All right, so I talked about what services there are, but what does it mean to you folks on the phone? What is the value of it? Why would you want to sell the service with your customer, to your customer? Because I know we all want to know what's in it for us. So this is just an example, and this is an example of a 9PXM. But as you can see in that blue line all the way to the left in year 0, that's the cost of a UPS. That's just what it is, what you sell it to the customer. And then that thin dark navy line, almost looking like black, that is your margin. That would be the margin that you get on just the box cost. Now, if you were to just sell that UPS box and nothing else, like no services associated with it, that would be your one and only margin that you would get off of the UPS. However, if in year 0 you sold a UPS contract with that UPS, year 1, so a year later, you would be getting a phone call and or an email from HM Cragg saying you sold this unit with service attached. Here is your warranty extension. Would your customer want another year of services on top of that? If they say yes, that's great. Let's buy another year. That green margin or that green stripe at the top would be your service margin. And the life of the UPS, if you can see all the way to year 7, is that green box is a lot more margin than that little dark navy black box at the end. So you can see that the life of the UPS, you get more margin from attaching services right up from the beginning all the way through the life of the UPS, rather than just selling the UPS itself and collecting that margin and moving on to the next project that you have. So why would you want it? You become a trusted advisor to your customer. They know that you're going to be coming back to them year out and year in with their renewal. So they know they have peace of mind that their UPS is covered if there is any issue with it, that every time a project does come up, hopefully they come to you and say, we want an Eaton quote, you know, an HM Cragg can quote you the unit and then the concurrent services. And then on the back end, not only would you get the margin for the UPS and concurrent services, but you'd also get the revenue for the life of the UPS as well from a service perspective. And then in between, when batteries needed to be changed out, obviously you would be getting the margin for the batteries as well, which HM Cragg can, again, help you quote and, you know, talk to your customer about services and what's the value to them in it, and not just from your perspective. So a couple of references that we have on our Eaton.com page is our 3-phase services. We have lots of literature on there, the types of services we have success stories, so end customers that have had really good positive experience with Eaton, not only in the UPS, but from a service perspective. And then we also have brochures and flyers. Those brochures and flyers are going to tell your customer the benefits of a service, Eaton service, and why they would want it. So it kind of gives a little bit more detail, goes kind of, you can go as deep as you would like, let's leave it that way, of how many brochures you want to send your customer. The Predict Pulse webpage is also a good one too. If they're unsure about Predict Pulse and they're not sure if they would even want it or utilize it, we do have free trials online, and the customer can go on Eaton.com and try and I guess download the software for a free trial just to kind of play around with it and see if it's something that would be beneficial for them. It also has the features and benefits of Predict Pulse on the webpage as well. So it's a good landing page to kind of get more familiar with what Predict Pulse is and if it would be something you would be interested in, you know, presenting to your customers. Then we also have a new landing page for Eaton single-phase services. So very similar to the 3-phase page, only it is very specific to our single-phase UPS. Again, it has brochures and flyers, kind of giving the ins and outs and why one would want services on these types of unit, what's best, what's, you know, what will get them through any kind of disaster as that would go. It also has reference guides in there. So any of the single phase service SKUs from a concurrent standpoint, or when you buy the new unit and the new service, it does have all those SKUs on there that you could request that HM Cragg can quote you at, so you guys can get your cost from that. And then I didn't touch too much on this, but I didn't want to throw it out there, is we do have our Eaton Power Protect service SKUs that go with our single phase or high run rate Eaton brand UPS units out there. And what it is that it's a bundled SKU. So you get your UPS, your startup, your 5-year flex contract, and then options if they wanted to add Predict Pulse. This came into play because we do have competitors out there that are running similar SKUs for our education customers out there. So what this does is it just alleviates having to pick and choose what services is right for the school system, and their IT department is very thin and stretched very thin. So what it does is that it has an Eaton technician come on site, be able to set up the unit, remove the old one, and know that they're protected for 5 years, where if anything does go off or an alarm does go off, an Eaton technician would be on site when needed. We do have a play for education, but those SKUs are not just for education. It is for any large customer that their IT department just does not have the bandwidth to go around and start up single phase UPSs, and they want Eaton to take it all on. That's a great SKU or bundled SKU to kind of put in front of them to see if it's something that they would be interested in. And again, HM Cragg can quote you guys on that and get you going on any of those. So what is the overarching summary of this, or what is the call of action that I hope you guys are kind of grasping, but is why sell Eaton Services? What is it to you guys? First of all, it does provide peace of mind to your end customers, knowing that they have Eaton behind them. If an issue arises, we will be on site, working with HM Cragg to get those quotes out there. They are well versed in quoting you guys and attaching services, and they have Eaton behind them to kind of help them along in case they do run into anything. It's continuous revenue for you folks that are on the phone, not just from that first UPS installation and getting just that margin on the UPS, but you guys will be getting that margin and that revenue the life of the UPS. So that full circle, you would get the sales from a lead perspective. When HM Cragg sees it, they send it over to you. When you do get those emails, hopefully now you guys can see them and will request a quote and can then go back to your customer and explain the benefits of it. It does help maintain customer relationships. So knowing your customer is there and they know you're there, and they want, that peace of mind, comes back to that peace of mind for the customers, that once that unit goes to retirement, hopefully they are calling you, asking for a quote, and then HM Cragg can quote you the UPS along with the services. And then once that service ends, they're reaching back out, HM Cragg is reaching back out to you guys to extend that warranty for the life of the UPS. So you have your HM Cragg service sales rep and your product reps that you guys can go to that know you very well, that will answer any of the questions. HM Cragg and yourselves also have our inside service sales rep, Liz Malloy, from an Eaton perspective. She's going to be more help with quoting for aftermarket services, but she would work in tandem with HM Cragg to get you guys what you would need, or if you have any questions. So first of all, attach services on all your quotes. Any projects you are working on, if we have a service offering, I hope you guys are now going to start attaching it. It doesn't hurt to attach and then have those conversations or start talking about services on those quotes. Become that trusted advisor for your customer via the Eaton UPS line and services, and then ask for help. If you ever need any help, HM Craig's there to offer it. If they don't know, they have myself and a whole slew of other Eaton folks that can at least try to get them in the right direction. So manage your projects and your quotes, quote it, and then get that revenue. I think that's all I had there, Dan.
Thank you, Caitlin. That was great.
Any questions, or if there was any chats going on, but
yeah, there's everybody was muted, so I'm gonna unmute everybody, and saw that we did have a couple questions. So okay. Dan, I think you had a question.
I was curious as to when a unit is scheduled to go end of life, if the SLEP program actually negates that end of life, and how was that tracked both at the HM Cragg level, our level, and Eaton's level, if that's what happens when you get the service life extension?
So the service life extension, we have our safe stock of parts that the units that are in, go back here so you can see the units here. Any of these units that you see, the 9390, 9395, those are end of life. We have a safety stock of parts to be able to offer the SLEP up until a certain time frame. But when we do put in those new parts for the unit itself, it does reset the clock on the unit from, I guess, conception of the unit. So you do get the full 10 to 15 years life of the unit. So when is
that a one-time? Is it a one-time action, at least at this stage, or is it considered something that you would do more than once?
What I've seen is I've seen people do it once, but that's not to say that they haven't done it more than once there. I guess essentially if they do have a unit and they want to replace or use this one every 10 years, they could, because the new firmware and the new guts of the unit, it's all brand new. It's just the outside of a box would still be the same.
And
But
to
I don't know if there's a timeline per se. I don't own this program. Stephen Gould is the product line manager for our service life extension program. He would know for sure how often you can use a UPS, or not the UPS, the SLEP for a UPS and the brand on it.
and use of this.
This is Robert. I can answer this question if you'd like.
Just let me add to the question, if you could, just a second. And does the SLEP program assume, or is it contingent on things such as battery, capacitor, and fan replacements throughout its original service life? And then that's the end of my question.
Yeah. So, Caitlin, if you don't mind, I can answer if you'd like.
Go for it.
Yeah. So the SLEP program is really designed to extend the life of the unit to where you can place it under contract. So when the unit, say the 9390, is coming end of service life in 2027. At that point in time, in 2028, if you did not purchase a SLEP modification, you are not eligible to buy a service contract on that unit. We stop it, and as Caitlin mentioned, we have an inventory of parts that will be held aside to extend the ability to maintain the units under contract up from 10 years from the point of purchase. So right now, if you purchase the SLEP this year, 10 years from now is what you're eligible to buy contracts on the unit until that time frame. It does not include the caps, the fans, and the batteries. Those have to be purchased separate. But the unit itself will have the ability to go however long it lasts. And again, you can purchase the contracts, so the coverage that will provide for you during that time frame up until the 10-year point. And the way we track it is, in our system, we will have a field activity report and ticket associated with the SLEP being performed, and that'll show that that unit has had the SLEP and is eligible to be placed under contract when the unit reaches end of service life.
Right, does that mandate that it has been under a service contract since its initial install?
No, it
Is that a
has nothing
requirement?
to do with being under contract currently. The SLEP program can be used as a one-off just to update the unit itself, or it can be used to say, hey, I want to continue doing contracts when it goes to end of service life, so I buy the SLEP so I'm eligible to buy the contracts.
Right, and so I hate to keep taking up time here, but so then as a point of sale for a customer we don't currently have, if they have three-phase UPSs that are eligible that would, just broadly speaking, be eligible under the SLEP program, it may be a point of entry into that customer to be able to offer that as an initial sale.
Correct.
I'm kind of thinking
Yes.
down the road a bit.
Yeah, because it comes with a 1-year warranty or contract. So by doing the SLEP, you would get a year of service where they would be under contract. So yes, you would start the process of them understanding the value of a service contract.
Right on. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Great question.
All right, any other questions?
This is Tim. I had submitted a question through, I believe, the text system, texting, and I don't know if it's going to be addressed through email or if I'll be hearing about it here.
Was it the question about the cooling?
Yes.
Yeah, so the question is, what brands of crack units and HVAC units will Eaton work on?
Mm-hmm.
So I don't have a slide for my cooling units. The cooling that we have our in-row and our precision cooling ones that I do know of. And anything that doesn't have the HVAC, our technicians will actually go and do the preventative maintenance. This website, the single phase Eaton Services page, that will take you to our cooling page, and it will go into all of the cooling products that we have, the ones that are coming out next year, and the services that you can attach to all of it. It's brand new to me, so I apologize that I don't have the ins and outs, but that website should give you a good understanding of the different types of cooling products we have, and then the associated services that you can attach to them.
Okay, that's perfect. But I'm assuming then that Eaton is only working on their product, not other manufacturers then.
Correct. Yep, it's the Eaton brand cooling products that we have that will be our Eaton Services.
Okay, thank you. That answers my question.
Not a problem.
All right, thanks, Tim. Any other questions? All right, well, if something else comes to mind, please reach out to HM Cragg and we'll get you the answers that you need. Caitlin, thank you so much for doing this afternoon. Really appreciate it.
Not a problem. And let me know if you guys need anything else or have any questions, and happy selling and attached service.
All right, thank you.